Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. I recently added this photograph to my collection. It's a soldier named Andrew Parker, and he served in the 44th New York Infantry. I did a little bit of research and I found very little information about him. Enlisted at age 19, he was in the regiment for about 3 months when he died of disease not far from where I live, in Harewood Hospital in Washington, D.C. The trail went pretty cold after that. And so I thought, let me just take a day off and come in fresh and try some different keywords and see what I can find. And so I did that. And I found an article, an obituary really, in the Sabbath Recorder, which was published in April of 1863. And it tells his story, tells a little bit about who he was and how he was called to serve the church. Then he was called to serve in the Union Army. And he did his best. He did what he could do. But disease took hold, and like so many men who came to fight with the best of intentions and driven by the patriotism and the complex motivations and emotions that come along with that, to fight only to never participate in a battle. But yet he was there. He stood up when it counted. He was counted. And he died on Christmas Day of 1862. So I want to read this short story to you to help you remember Andrew Parker. Here we go. Quote, in Harewood Hospital, Washington, D.C., December 25th, 1862, of consumption. Andrew Parker, adopted son of Clark and Elizabeth Kuhn of Lincoln, New York, in the 20th year of his age, a member of Company H, 44th New York State Volunteers. The deceased made a public profession of religion when he was 16 years of age and became a member of the Seventh-day Baptist Church in Lincoln. He continued a faithful member of the church and an humble and devoted disciple of Jesus Christ until he was removed from his sphere of labor and usefulness on earth to the rest and reward of the kingdom of heaven. Our young brother endeared himself to his family and friends and the Church of Christ by his Christian candor, frankness, humility, warm and unchanging attachment to his friends, associates, and the cause of the Redeemer. His place was always filled in the sanctuary and duty discharged in the Bible class and prayer meeting. Often, during the present war, he felt the promptings of patriotism calling him to volunteer in the service of his country. Being of a slender constitution, he was held back for a while until, in the time of his country's utmost need and urgent call for men, he could be restrained no longer, and in company with a little band of noble spirits whose religious sentiments and sympathies were like his, he enlisted and immediately left home for the scene of his future toils and subsequent illness and death. Early in the winter, he was attacked with the measles, which terminated in consumption. Thus, early closed the young soldier's career on earth, that he might receive the victor's crown in heaven. His foster brother, Mr. Henry C. Kuhn, was with him the last few days he lived, and by his careful management, the remains were conveyed home for interment in the family burial ground, where they quietly repose beneath the overshadowing evergreen in the hope of a glorious resurrection. Signed, TF. So, a story of a young man is pictured here. He's just a kid. He's standing proudly in his frock coat, which has just been issued to him It's clean, pressed. You can see the trim around his collar, the shiny brass buttons. And look how he's holding his cap. He wants you to see the regimental number, the metal numbers attached to the flat part of the round cap, the company letter below the regimental numbers. This is a photograph that he took, captures his spirit of patriotism and his devotion to duty in a local studio in New York, actually, as he was moving down south to Washington, D.C., where his life would come to an end on Christmas Day of 1862. I think it's important to remember all of those who served in the Union Army during the war, no matter what their contribution was in camp or on campaign. Those who stood up in that time of need and the time to defend the Constitution, saying their names aloud. For those of you who watch these videos, you know that's important to me to say those names. And so we say one here today. Andrew Parker, the 44th New York Infantry, enlisted September 8th, 1862, passed away of consumption on Christmas Day of the same year. Godspeed.